General Hospital spoilers reveal that the marriage between Portia and Curtis has finally come to an end after a long period of struggle marked by pain, disappointment, and irreparable distance. It wasn't a sudden collapse, but the inevitable result of cracks that had grown wider over time, cracks caused by lies, unhealed wounds, and a gradual erosion of trust that consumed the passionate love they once shared. Curtis, a man who always valued honesty and sincerity, could no longer forgive Portia after she once again kept a significant secret from him, this time involving a blackmail scheme with consequences that could endanger both of their lives. Meanwhile, Portia, despite still trying to hold on and loving Curtis in her own way, could no longer break through the walls of anger, criticism, and emotional distance that both had unknowingly built between them. Divorce wasn't an easy choice, but it became the only way to bring relief to two people who had grown too tired of clinging to a relationship sustained only by obligation and sorrow. Yet while many saw it as the end of an old chapter, a new dynamic quietly began to emerge, a subtle but clear shift in the connection between Portia and another man, Isaiah Gannon. What began as casual conversations between co-workers turned into something more after the nurses' ball, where Curtis abruptly left Portia without a word. In that moment, Isaiah appeared. Not as a romantic savior, but as a calm and non-judgmental presence willing to listen. He didn't push, didn't rush. But his quiet strength and sincerity were exactly what Portia unconsciously longed for. Their meetings became more frequent, and in an undefined yet undeniable way. Portia found comfort in Isaiah's presence, something she had not felt with Curtis for a long time. What made this connection even more unique was that it wasn't born from fleeting passion or desire, but from mutual empathy, an emotional bond forged from the wounds they both carried. Isaiah, too, had experienced loss, knew what it felt like to be alone in a crowd. And Portia, amid the ruins of a broken marriage, found a sense of peace in him she thought she'd never feel again. To outsiders, it may seem like simple workplace kindness, but to those who have loved, hurt, and lost, it's how real love often begins, quietly, without fanfare, yet deep enough to rekindle a heart that had long grown cold. And this shift is gradually reshaping the entire narrative. Portia is no longer just the woman clinging to a failed marriage or hiding from her mistakes. She's stepping out of Curtis's shadow, not with bitterness or blame, but by allowing herself to feel something new, hope, and the possibility of loving again. Isaiah, though he hasn't declared his intentions outright, is proving with every glance, every word, every thoughtful gesture that he's ready to be part of Portia's life, not as a replacement, but as someone who might walk with her into a new chapter, if she's willing. While Curtis remains stuck between the past and his unresolved feelings for Jordan, Portia is beginning to find her own path, one where Isaiah might not be a whirlwind romance, but a steady, deep, and mature love that could finally heal her old wounds. Perhaps it is the trauma of her failed marriage that makes Portia hesitant, but that very pain is also what drives her to be more careful, more honest, and braver in opening her heart again. In the complex and volatile world of Port Charles, where betrayal and loyalty often blend in a dangerous game, the developing bond between Portia and Isaiah feels like a new rhythm. Not overly dramatic, not loud, but just strong enough to make viewers pause and wonder, could this time be different? Can Portia finally love in a way that is healthy and whole? Does Isaiah have the patience and sincerity not only to stay, but to help heal a broken heart? And will this relationship become a true new beginning, or just a pause between heartbreaks? Only time, and their choices, will tell. But for now, Portia's story, no longer the desperate wife but a woman rising from the ashes, is becoming one of the most compelling journeys on General Hospital. The relationship between Isaiah and Portia is now entering a gray area of emotion, where the line between genuine affection and hidden agendas grows increasingly thin. Though outwardly their closeness is marked by tender glances and empathetic conversations, beneath the surface, a wave of suspicion is rising in Isaiah, a professional intuition he cannot ignore, and a sign that things may not be as straightforward as they seem. Isaiah begins to sense that Portia might be hiding something far more serious than what she has revealed, not just the emotional fallout from her divorce or past mistakes with Curtis, but something tied to more tangled events, the case Drew used to accuse Tracy. Twisted evidence, inconsistent testimonies, and unusual silence from key figures compel Isaiah to start connecting the dots. And within those pieces, Portia's image begins to emerge in a more significant role. He starts to wonder. Is the intimacy Portia shows him truly heartfelt, or part of a calculated effort to manage the flow of information? Is she using their growing connection as a shield to obscure the truth? Or worse? Could this budding romance be the key that unlocks a door to secrets that might destroy many lives? While Portia is revealing a more vulnerable side, something she hasn't shown since the trauma of her divorce, Isaiah finds himself internally conflicted. He's torn between two identities. A devoted doctor seeking the truth, and a man increasingly drawn to a complicated, captivating woman who may not be telling him everything. He realizes that if he doesn't control his emotions, he could become a pawn in a much larger game, a game Portia may be playing, whether knowingly or not. But Isaiah is not easily manipulated. He begins to subtly probe, collecting small details from Portia's words, her reactions when he mentions Tracy, Drew, or events related to the murky accusations. Gradually, he senses something unsaid behind Portia's sorrowful eyes. A guardedness. A suspicious silence. Their relationship, therefore, is no longer just a tale of two wounded adults rediscovering love, but a more complex journey, one of mutual discovery, and simultaneously, an investigation into carefully buried secrets. And as their feelings deepen, Isaiah faces an even bigger question. If his suspicions are correct, if Portia is indeed involved in the scheme Drew used to entrap Tracy, then which side will he choose? Love or truth? More importantly, if this love is just a bridge to another betrayal, will Isaiah's heart survive another blow? Or will he be the one to break the cycle of pain by confronting the truth, even if it means letting go of the connection forming between them? Amid the new troubles facing Tracy and the suspicious changes in Portia's behavior, Isaiah stands at the center of a layered story. On one side is a sincere affection he wants to believe in. On the other, a gut feeling urging him to dig deeper, to see beyond, and not let emotion cloud his judgment. The romance between Portia and Isaiah, if it can truly be called love, is now more than just two people finding each other after loss. It is a dangerous game, where truth, feelings, and motives could clash at any moment. And in Port Charles, where nothing is ever truly random, love and conspiracy often lie just one glance apart. Portia stands on the delicate boundary between professional ethics and personal misjudgment as the truth about her blind trust in Drew Kane slowly unravels with each twist of fate in Port Charles. When she chose to trust Drew, a man who consistently appeared calm, composed, and seemed to be a victim under Tracy Quartermain's pressure, Portia failed to see that she was stepping into a chess game fraught with perilous moves. Reeling from her divorce from Curtis, she sought a source of comfort, an ally to confide in and rebuild a sense of trust. But she didn't realize that her vulnerability had led her straight into a trap laid by Drew, who not only manipulated her through emotional closeness but used her naivety as a strategic pawn in his plan to take down Tracy. Portia was wrong, deeply wrong. By supporting Drew and aiding in legitimizing baseless accusations against Tracy, she severely compromised justice, not only in terms of medical ethics but also the value system she once believed in. In her eyes, Drew was the victim, and Tracy the threat. But as the puzzle pieces stopped fitting and the truth began to emerge, piece by piece, through another man, Isaiah Gannon, the world Portia was trying to build began to crumble. Isaiah, who had entered Portia's life with quiet charm and genuine care, now began to transform. No longer just a listener or a source of comfort, he started asking questions, observing more closely, and delving into the oddities surrounding Portia and Drew's relationship. When he noticed inconsistencies in Portia's words, her unnatural reactions whenever Tracy was mentioned, Isaiah understood something was wrong. And guided by an instinct to uncover the truth, he couldn't turn a blind eye. What no one expected was that Isaiah would end up defending Tracy, a turning point that not only flipped the case on its head but also opened a chaotic new chapter in his relationship with Portia. With sharp insight and experience, Isaiah unearthed evidence that could prove Tracy's innocence, while also exposing the flaws in the testimony and evidence crafted by Drew and Portia. He didn't publicly condemn Portia, at least not yet, but his actions were a silent declaration of war, a vow that he would stand with the truth, no matter who got hurt. As Portia watched the man she had just begun to open her heart to drift away ideologically, she couldn't help but feel betrayed, while also being forced to confront herself. New fears began to surface, that she may have enabled a disgraceful scheme, that her emotionally driven choices had led her to compromise her professional ethics, and perhaps even lose Isaiah. The only person who could have understood and healed her after her marriage to Curtis collapsed. A quiet storm is forming. Isaiah is now more than just Tracy's defender against slander. He is the one exposing the deeply buried troubles within Portia. Every move he makes, every piece of evidence he presents, pushes Portia further into shame and fear. Isaiah is no longer someone she can lean on. He has become a mirror reflecting a truth she doesn't want to face. Their relationship is now stretched between conflicting forces. On one side, a fragile new affection. On the other, Isaiah's duty and conscience compelling him to pursue justice to the end. And at the center of this tension is Portia, a woman paying the price for misplaced trust, for decisions clouded by emotion, and for failing to see who was truly an ally and who was a manipulator. As Isaiah continues his quest to uncover the truth and clear Tracy's name, he becomes a symbol of justice in a world where trust and betrayal are entangled in a deadly game. And Portia, haunted by growing guilt, now faces not Drew, but herself. That is the most painful part, not losing someone else, but realizing she lost herself a long time ago. The issue is not just the charges on paper or the backstage political scheming within the hospital. The real tragedy is that Portia is confronting an irreversible truth. In her quest for peace after her broken marriage, she chose the wrong person to trust. And now, the very man she hoped would be her fresh start, Isaiah, has become the one to end a sweet but dangerous illusion. The story between Isaiah and Portia is heading toward an agonizing crossroads that no one foresaw, least of all Portia, who once saw Isaiah as a beacon of hope after her downfall. What began with empathy, tenderness, and seemingly harmless gestures has now set the stage for a cascade of shocks. As Isaiah, the man who once offered solace, transforms into a representative of law and truth, ready to bring Portia into the light of justice. Not with malice or vengeance, but with the cold decisiveness of someone wounded yet unwilling to let emotions cloud his resolve. Now, Isaiah is poised to drag Portia into legal jeopardy, not only shaking her private world but sending shockwaves through all of Port Charles. This marks a seismic shift in an already chaotic rhythm of life in the city. Once a respected doctor, a woman who fought for her family, for Trina, for her reputation, Portia is now in danger of being branded a criminal. The secrets she once hid, the poor choices she made in trusting Drew, and her unconscious participation in a dark conspiracy are now being laid bare. Isaiah doesn't just have evidence, he has determination. The change in his eyes when he looks at Portia, the growing coldness replacing past concern, are clear signs of an inevitable confrontation. Isaiah has crossed the line between personal feelings and moral duty. He knows that if he backs down, if he stays silent out of emotion, he would not only betray his values but also enable a series of violations that could destroy the fragile justice system of Port Charles. To him, exposing Portia is no longer a choice, it is a necessity to end a chain of wrongdoing. This isn't just about saving Tracy from false accusations, it's about correcting a narrative twisted by those who were supposed to protect the truth, not distort it for personal gain. Portia, now facing the nightmare ahead, begins to panic. What she once saw as safe options, silence, denial, excuses, are crumbling under Isaiah's sharp gaze and irrefutable evidence. She has nowhere left to hide. And the deepest pain isn't the prospect of imprisonment, it's that the person dragging her out of her comfort zone is Isaiah, the one she had started to trust after so much loss. Isaiah's pursuit of justice is reshaping the power dynamics and loyalties in Port Charles. Those who once supported Portia now harbor doubts. Colleagues who once believed in her keep their distance. Isaiah doesn't need to shout or accuse her publicly. His silence, his unwavering steps in the investigation, are the harshest indictment Portia has ever faced. But beneath it all lies a deeper, more haunting truth. Portia is beginning to see the complete collapse of the self-image she once clung to. No longer the strong mother, the dedicated doctor, or the woman who once held Curtis's love. She now represents a string of choices that led to disastrous consequences. She no longer controls the narrative, has no chance to rewrite reality. Everything is beyond her reach now, and any adjustments only lead further into madness, a truth once denied now turning back to consume the one who tried to bend it. In the middle of the storm, Isaiah remains unchanged. He is resolute, cold, and prepared to go all the way to bring Portia to justice, not out of hatred, but because he believes that if someone has betrayed justice, they must pay the price. His personal feelings are now a luxury, something Portia killed not with a knife, but with lies. The story is reaching its climax. And in a city where the impossible is always possible, Portia is now paying the price, with her freedom, her honor, and her heart. Isaiah chose justice. Portia chose wrong. And Port Charles, where secrets always come with a price, is now witnessing a collapse no one can save. Tracy has finally walked out of prison, carrying with her not only her freedom but a simmering fury yet to be unleashed. She's not the kind of woman to sit quietly and accept her fate. And after everything that has happened, wrongful imprisonment, manipulated accusations, and a tarnished reputation, Tracy has returned not to avoid the past, but to reclaim the truth, piece by piece. But she's not alone. Beside her now stands Isaiah Gannon, once just a devoted doctor, an outsider to the power games of Port Charles, now the eye of a brewing storm of truth. From the moment Isaiah chose to stand by Tracy, while the entire town turned its back, everything changed. In the eyes of Port Charles, he was no longer just the quiet resident physician focused solely on medicine. He had become the man challenging a shadowy force manipulating truth under the guise of morality and compassion. And the name slowly coming into the light was none other than Drew Kane, the man everyone believed incapable of such calculated and deliberate wrongdoing. But Isaiah doesn't just suspect, he has evidence, and he's taking action. The moment Tracy was released, Isaiah began working with her to dig deeper into the strange events previously ignored. Into the seemingly meaningless data no one had bothered with. They combed through internal emails, cross-checked testimonies, compared schedules, and uncovered a web of manipulation Drew had carefully constructed to deceive everyone. Each puzzle piece Isaiah discovered was a blow to Drew's confidence, the man who believed he had erased every trace. What Drew hadn't anticipated was that Isaiah possessed a rare ability to spot the details others missed. As a doctor, Isaiah was trained to read people, to observe even the subtlest reactions. Now, that skill became a weapon for uncovering deceit. He recognized Drew's lies, the subtle acts of concealment, and even the silent allies who helped frame Tracy in a dirty political game. With each passing day, Isaiah and Tracy delved deeper into the labyrinth of truth, and what they uncovered went beyond a personal setup. It was bigger, broader. Drew hadn't just wanted to take down Tracy. He was plotting to restructure the entire power hierarchy of Port Charles, from manipulating healthcare funds and interfering with the hospital's internal investments, to controlling the media and shaping public opinion to serve his own interests. Isaiah didn't just uncover a scheme, he stood before an entire system built on lies. And now, his story was heating up like never before. He was no longer a silent investigator. He stepped into the fight with his true identity, a man openly challenging Drew, daring to speak the truth in a society of silence. The media began to take notice. Those who once dismissed him began to feel uneasy. Isaiah wasn't seeking fame, but his unyielding determination, intelligence, and refusal to back down were forcing all of Port Charles to pause and reevaluate who was truly speaking the truth. Meanwhile, Drew was quietly spiraling into panic. His veiled threats, attempts to silence witnesses, and fabricated distractions to throw Isaiah off course were all beginning to fail. Drew was no longer facing just another opponent, but an enemy who feared nothing. Because Isaiah had nothing to lose, yet everything he needed to win, a steadfast belief in truth, a formidable ally in Tracy. And a chillingly clear goal, to dismantle the system that had protected Drew for far too long. But beneath all the schemes and strategies, another layer was shaping Drew's psyche: obsession. Isaiah wasn't just a pursuer, he had become the embodiment of everything Drew couldn't control. With every step Isaiah took, Drew felt the world tighten around him, allies pulling away. Secrets surfacing. The obsession gnawed at Drew's composure, causing him to unravel, exposing cracks that Isaiah was waiting to exploit. Port Charles has never been peaceful. But now it's boiling over. Within the hospital walls, down city hall corridors, in corporate boardrooms, the name Isaiah Gannon is no longer whispered, it rings out like a warning bell. He is not a hero. He is not a savior. He is the truth, and that truth is drawing nearer with every unstoppable step. Tracy is no longer the conservative matriarch many once assumed she was. She is a survivor. A witness. And now, a collaborator with a true warrior to clean up a power structure rotting from within. Drew, no matter how powerful, won't stand a chance against an alliance built not on convenience, but on sheer resolve. The storyline has now transcended personal borders and become a battlefield of ideals versus deception, where Isaiah is leading the charge, with the fire of truth burning in every step he takes. Refusing to stop.